Yomi is Bava Basra Daf Ches, Bava Basra 8, and we're going to get started on top of Ches Samad Aleph, where the Gemara is referring to the discussion of how do we know that we're not supposed to charge the Torah scholars for the security costs of the city. Torah scholars have an exemption; they don't need to pay for the security costs. So on Ches Samad Aleph, we're going to start 3 lines from the top. Rav Nachman, Rav Chisda, Rama Karga, Rabbana. Rav Nachman, Rav Chisda placed a tax on the Rabbanan, placed a tax for them, presumably that this was a tax that the king said that you have to collect from all the Jews and including the rabbis. So Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Avarta the Araisa the Neviv Adiksuva. He said, you're taxing the rabbis, you placed the tax on, you're violating a biblical law from the prophets and from the Ksuvim, Adiraisa, because a biblical law, because it says, Afko Vevamim, Kol Kadoshav Biodecha. So what do we learn from this? What does this pasuk mean from the end of the Torah? And Amar Moshe, Pnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono Shel Olam, Moshe said to God, Afilu b'shah she'ata mechaviv amim, even at the time where you give honor to the people, Kol Kadoshav Biodecha. All the Jewish people the holy ones are in your hands, meaning even when the nations of the world are above the Jews, nevertheless, you're watching over the Jews. And then, V'heim tukula raglacha, and they are sitting at your feet. What does this mean? Tani Rav Yosef, Elo talmidei chacham shemechatetim raglayim me'ir la'ir medina l'mod Torah. This refers to Torah scholars who are going from city to city. They're walking from city to city to study Torah. What does that mean? Why are they going? So they are engaging in the words of God. But we see from here that Talmidei Chacham, because it says Kol Kadoshav Yodecha, that the Torah scholars of the Jewish people are in your hands. So they don't need the security from the nations of the world, and they don't need security guards. They're in the hands of Hashem. And Navi, how do we know that the prophets teach us this idea that the rabbis don't need to pay for the taxes for security? So it says in the pasuk from Hosea, Gam ki yitnu b'goyim atar kapseim yachilu ma'at mimasa melach v'sarim. So what does that mean? So the Gemara tells us that Amar Ua pasuk said b'lashon Aramis nemar, even though it's said by Hosea, we have to read it as though it was written in Aramaic. Itanu kulu, meaning to say the word yitnu means from yishnu, they shall study. Itani kulu Ata kapseim. If all of you study Torah, then now I'll pick you up and redeem you. But if just a little bit of them, then what will happen is yachelu masa melch v'sarim. You won't be subject to the laws of taxes of the king and the princes. Gemara says adiksuve about this writings, the chsiv, as it states in the verse in book of Daniel, it says in the pasuk in the book of Daniel, it says minda below v'alach lo shalit l'mer ma'alehem, that there is no permission for these taxes to rule over you. And what does this mean? How does Rav Yehuda understand this pasuk? Come Rav Yehuda, minda zu minas melech. This is the tax of the king. Below zu kesef kulgalta. This is the personal tax, each on the head. V'alach zu arnona is the tax on your produce. Rav Papa Rami Karya Chadasa Ayasme. Rav Papa placed a tax on the orphans before digging a new well. Amarle Rav Shisha Bered Rav Idi Rav Papa. But that's speculative. Demo mitval. Maybe you won't get any water from the well. You're just doing speculative, and you want the orphans to have to pay for speculative. Amarle Mishkal Shakil Naminayu. He says, no, listen, I'm taking the money from them, but midval. If it gets water, then they'll be a part of it. Otherwise, I'll just return the money to them. Amar Yehuda, Kol Agle Gape. Everybody has to pay for the the door to the gates of the city. Afil mias, but even orphans. But rabbis don't have to pay because they don't need protection. Akol Karya Pacha. Everybody has to pay for the digging of a well. I feel Mirabanan, even the rabbis, because the rabbis also drink the water. Well, Amran Eladol Nafki Bakuza. When do we say everybody has to participate? When they don't go out and dig it themselves. On Nafki Bakuza, but if everybody goes out to dig it themselves, Rabbanan Lav B'nei Meifek Bakuza, the rabbis aren't supposed to be doing menial labor, so they wouldn't go out. Now we have a powerful story. Rebbe Patach Otzeros Peshani Pitzoros. Rebbe opened up the storehouses in the years of the famine. Amar Yikansu Bali Mikra, Bali Mishnah, Bali Gemara, Bali Alacha, Bali Agada. So they said, Rebbe, when he opened up the storehouses to give out food in the famine, he knew that there was a limited amount of food. So he said, I'm going to give to the scholars first. So that all who are scholars of the Bible, the Mishnah, the Gemara, the Halacha, the homilies, but those Ame Aretz, these are generally speaking the people who didn't learn Torah. He said they can't come in. Rabbi Yonasan ben Amram disguised himself and he entered in. And Amar Rabbi Parnaseni, he said, "Can you support me?" Amar Bani. So Rabbi says to him, "Karisa, have you studied Torah?" Amar Lav. Shanita Amar Lav. He says, "Have you studied Torah?" He said, "No, I came from Al Parnasecha. So how am I going to support you? You know my rule. I'm really Parnaseni Kikelafu Korev. Support me like a dog and like a raven." So the Chasam Sofer explains that because a dog and a raven, there are references to them. The dogs didn't bark when the Jewish people left, and the ravens brought food to Elijah. So we see from here that they were supporters of Torah. So even though I don't actually study Torah, give me food like a supporter of Torah. So Basra did not fuck after Rabbi Yonasan ben Amram left. Yosef Rebbe become a star. Rebbe was upset. He said, "Oilish and Asati." Pisi Amma Aretz. He said, I feel bad that I gave it to the Amma Aretz. I should have given it to the Torah scholars. Armo Afana for Rabbi Shimon bar Rebbe. So Rebbe's son said, Shema Yonasan ben Amram Tamitcha. Maybe this is your student, Yonasan, the son of Amram. Amram is also Moshe's father, but Yonasan, the son of Amram, your student. Sheino Rotzel Yanos Mikvot Torah Miyamam. He's really a scholar. He just doesn't want to benefit from the honor of the Torah. So therefore, he claimed he was an Amma Aretz. Badku v'ashkach, they searched him out and they found that it was the case. I'm a Rebbe, so now Rebbe realized that he has to support everyone because maybe the Torah scholars will be too embarrassed to take. He can't do a call. Rebbe Utame, Rebbe follows his logic. I'm a Rebbe ain't peronios b'olam al b'shvil Ame Aretz. The reason why Rebbe didn't want to give to the Ame Aretz because he said the only reason why punishments come to the world or misfortune is because of the Ame Aretz. Kahu de Mekuila. The Shadu Atfiria, there was a crown tax that they applied to the people of Tiberias. Also coming to Rabbi, they came to Rabbi, but Amrlei, Leisfu Rabbanan Ba'adan. They said to him, we want the rabbis to contribute. Amrlei, whoa. He said, no. Amrlei Arukim. So they said, we'll run away and leave with you. Amrlei Aruko. He said, run away. Arku Palgeon. So that half of them ran away. So you Palga. So then they cut the tax in half. Also, Hanu Palgo Kame. So the remaining half came in front of Rebbe. Amrei, so they said, we want you rabbis to contribute. Amrei, who? Whoa. He said, we're not contributing. Arukina. And they said, then we'll run away. Aruku, cool. Then they all ran away. Pasha, who? Koves. There was a laundryman there who was left in the town. Shajua Koves. They said to this laundry guy, you have to pay everybody's tax. So Arak Koves, the laundryman ran away. Pakak, Kalila, and then they said, you know what, we're going to drop the tax. I'm a Rebbe. You see that the only reason we were taxed was because of the Ame Aretz, but the rabbis, in the end, they weren't the ones taxed. Says the next piece, how long do you have to be in the city to consider like you're a member of the town and have to pay full taxes? So it says 1 year. How is it the case that it's 12 months? But didn't we learn a contradictory source? So don't we learn from the idea of the Brisa that talks about an Ir Nidachas, which is a city that's entirely destroyed because they're idolaters, where the city is supposed to be killed by the sword and all their money is lost, that we learned that if there's a donkey driver or a camel driver who's passing through when they're caught, then they don't get punished like the Ir Nidachas, they get stoned instead of sayef, instead of sword, and their money is not taken away. Their money is given to their descendants, unlike the Ir Nidachas, whose money is burned. But if they're there for 30 days, once they're there for 30 days, they get the same punishment as the Ir Nidachas. They get sayef and they lose their money. So we see from here that it's 30 days, not 12 months. So Amarav Kasha, of Neimasa, Holy Suve Masa. The one is for the people who are considered to be the B'nai Masa, and one is for the people who are considered to be Yosef Misubi Masa, those who are staying in the city. That's 30 days. But then to stay in the city considered 30 days, and then you're liable for your Arnidachas. But the B'nai Masa, to be a citizen, that you need 12 months. Like we learned, if somebody takes a vow, he's not going to get a benefit from the people of the city. Then anybody who's there for 12 months, he can't benefit from him. Less than that mutter. From anybody who happens to be residing in the city. So then, but at Yoshvi year, it's only somebody who's there for 30 days. So Gemara asked the question of Kol Miyui Mi Ba'ina Yudu Beis Chodesh. Do we really require 12 months to be a citizen of the city? But Tanya, but we learn in the Brisa for different levels, different types of charity, and you have to contribute to them on the base of different things. So Shloshim Yom, if you're there for 30 days, Latamcha, you have to start contributing to the food collection. Shlosha Chadashim Kupa, 3 months you have to start with the Tamcha was given out every day. So if you're there 30 days, you have to contribute to it. Shlosh Chadashim, 3 months, Lakupa. This is for the collection for the poor to give out. Shisha Laksus, 6 months for the clothing. Tisha Lakvur, 9 months for the burial fund. Shnei Masar Pasei year, 12 months for the Pasei year. And this is for the security of the city. So Amar Avasi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. And so we see from here, it's 12 months not for everything. So Gemara says, but our Mishnah says that after 12 months, you consider like you're a member of the city. That's for the security purposes. He says everything belongs to everybody has to contribute to the security of the city, even the orphans. So, of all Rabbanon, but not the rabbis. Why? The Rabbanon, so they don't need protection. Amar Papa was Shura or Parsha or Tazina fil miyas. So he says for the Shura, that's to fix the wall, a Parsha, like for the king's watchman, his security guard, Marzina, this is the guy who he watches the weapons of the city and he sits at the guard gate. So all these 3 types of people, Afil miyas, the orphans need to contribute of a Rabbanon, the rabbis don't need to. Why? Rabbanon Terusa. Rabbis don't need protection. Call the Milsa, the Islo Anamine, Afil miyasmi. General rule is anyone who gets benefit from a certain type of fund, they need to contribute to it, even the orphans. So that's why the orphans have to do it. Rabba Ramat Staka Yasmi, Rabba was collecting charity from the orphans of the Bar Mirion. So from the house of Bar Mirion. But then, so Abai says, but then Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda say that we don't collect from the orphans even for the redeeming of captives. So why are you collecting charity from them? He says, no, I'm doing this for their benefit. I'm doing this to make the community respect them more. They'll say about these orphans that they are philanthropists. And so therefore I'm collecting from them, not for so that we can have enough money for the poor, but to give them more honor. Now the Gemara tells us about Ifra Hormuz, Ima Dishabur Malka. Ifra Hormuz, who was the mother of King Shabur, Shadra Arnakedi Dinari Latamid Rav Yosef. She sent a wallet full of gold in front of Rav Yosef. Amrulay, so Amro Lihavil Mitzvah. She said to Rav Yosef, this non-Jewish mother of the king, she said to Rav Yosef, let this use this money for a great mitzvah. Yosef Rav Yosef Kamayim Ba'amayim mitzvah. Rav Yosef was looking at it, says, what's a great mitzvah? Amarei, Abai said, me Tanu Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda and Poskin Stok Al Yisrael Philip Piyun Shvuim Shmamina Piyun Shvuim. That we learned from that statement that you don't collect money from the orphans even for redeeming captives. That from that statement it proves that redeeming captives is the greatest mitzvah. It's a mitzvah rabbah. And Amarei Rabba Barmari Minam. So how do we know this idea that Amar Rabbanan Piyun Shvuim are on top of Chasam Abayis? How do we know this idea that Piyun Shvuim is a mitzvah rabbah? Because it says it says in the pasuk in Jeremiah, it says we'll go out to you. It says in the pasuk, those who are set to die will die. First it was death, then sword, then famine, then captivity. And Rabbi Yochanan said, that whatever's written later in the verse is more difficult than the early one. Sword is harsher than death. Or you could say it's by a verse or by logic. How so? If you want, you could say it's by logic. High coming out of high, low coming out. A sword makes you, basically mutilated, whereas death doesn't. Or also verse. Hashem says that the death of his pious ones is precious, meaning a regular death is more precious than the sword. Rav is kasha mecharav, and famine is worse than sword. If you want to say it's logic, how come it's if you have a famine, you go through pain, whereas a sword, it's very quick. Or reverse, that it was better off to die by sword than by famine. And Shevi Kasha Mekulam, and captivity is the harshest of all. The cool is not obey. They have everything inside it. Captivity has death, it has sword, it has famine, so it has everything inside of it. And we learn these lines on this day, so it should be a Yeshua redemption that our captives who are being held in the prison of Gaza should be released at once from captivity. Tan Rabbanan, the rabbis taught Kupa Shal Tzedakah, the charity box, Nigbase, when you collect the charity box, which was given out, was, we just said, every 3 months, or you have to contribute to it there as long as you live there every 3 months, but it was given out, we'll see, once a week. The Kupa Shal Tzedakah, Nigbase B'Shnayim with Chalakas B'Shlosha. It was collected by 2, but it was divided up by 3. Nigbase B'Shnayim was collected by 2. She'ein Osim Sraros Al Tzibor Pachas Mishnayim. You don't do acts of authority on the community if it's less than 2 people. With chalakas b'shlosh, it's divided by 3. Kedinei mamanos. Generally speaking, on monetary issues, you have to divide it by a cord of 3, and so giving out the charity money is comparable to that. Tamchoy, the tamchoy, which is given out every day, nigbeis b'shlosh, and chalakas b'shlosh, it's collected with 3 and given out by 3. Shegevuya v'chaluka shavim, because the collection and the giving out of the tamchoy is equal. Tamchoy v'kol yom kupa me'erev Shabbos or erev Shabbos. What are some differences of tamchoy and a kupa? Tamchoy is the food pantry, so that's collected every day, and the kupa is given out, and it's given out every day, and the kupa is given out once a week on Fridays. Tamchoy l'aniyei olam, kupa l'aniyei ayir. The tamchoy is given to any poor man who shows up, whereas the kupa is given out only to the poor people of your city. Rishon b'nei ayir asos kupa tamchoy v'tamchoy kupa, and the people of the city, the heads of the city, they're allowed to transfer between the kupa and the tamchoy. And they're allowed to take that money and use it for whatever they want. So there's a dispute here according to the Rishonim. There's a Machokas Rishonim. Tosa says they can use it for whatever they want. It doesn't have to just be giving to the poor, whatever the communal needs of the city. But the Rimagash and the Yad Ramah say though it leads to a different need for the poor. It just doesn't have to be specifically to the tamchoy or the kupa, which is the food collection or the weekly allowance, and maybe it was a different need for the poor. They were allowed to do that. And the heads of the city are allowed to make certain rules about the weights and measures, about the prices. They're allowed to fix the prices, about the wages of the workers, and to penalize those who violate this. So they're allowed to make any deals, and if you want to live in the town, you have to follow their rules, like minimum wages. It's up to the people or the leaders of the city. Now to make authority on the community less than 2, and that's why you need 2 people to collect charity. So the Gemara says, what's the source? It says in the pasuk about the collection of the money for the truma, they will take the gold. That's in the plural. So the Gemara says, from the fact that it says that you're not allowed to do sraros on the community less than 2, fine, but one person is believed on their own to take the money from there. You can't force them, but one person can collect it on his own. A proof of this is that Rabbi once appointed 2 brothers, and normally 2 brothers is just equivalent to 1 person because we're not going to trust a relative to watch the other relative. So Rabbi once appointed 2 brothers over the collection box. What does it mean that you force them? Because you can even take pledges for charity from a person he has to give even on Fridays. Is it really the case? It says in the pasuk in Jeremiah, Hashem promises that He will pay back anybody who presses the children, the people of Israel. If anybody who presses too hard amongst the children of Israel, I'll pay him back. Even if he's a charity collector. And so we see from here that the charity collectors are going to be paid back if they press the people too hard. So how can we say they're allowed to take a pledge to collect their charity? Well, it depends if the person they're collecting from is wealthy or not. If he's not wealthy, then you shouldn't be taking the pledges from him. Like Rava forced Rav Nasan Bar Amen, he took from him 400 suits for charity. And so now, since the Gemara was talking about the aspect of a charity collector, the Gemara talks about the reward of the charity collectors in the future. It says, it says those who are maskilim, those who are working for, who are doing something good. We'll see what they are. They'll be splendorous, like the splendor of the sky. And who is this a reference to? This is a judge who judges the case properly. Those who make the community more righteous will be like stars forever. This refers to the collectors of charity. So this is a true judge and a charity collector. This refers to this refers to people who teach little children. Like who is the one who's teaching little children? Amarav could go on Rav Shmuel Bar Shilet, like Rav Shmuel Bar Shilet. Shilet is the mother of Rav Shmuel. And why is he named after his mother, not his father? Because his mother raised him more than his father, like it says in Maseches Sanhedrin, because she was the sister of Rebbe Chia. Rav Haigon says this. And also, we have another idea here from Bava Basra Rebbe. Why is it called Rebbe Shmuel Bar Shilet? Because it says the Rebbe, Shivis, it stands for Shivisi Hashem Negdi Tamid, that he was a Malamdi Tinukos, and whatever he did, as we'll see from the story, he always kept Hashem in front of him at all times. That's why his name was Rav Shmuel Bar Shilet. So the Gemara says, the Rav Ashkei Rav Shmuel Bar Shilet, Tavikai begin. Rav once fell Rav Shmuel Bar Shilet, he was standing in his garden. And so he said to him, Shavata lahim nusach. He said to him, what? You're not doing your job anymore? You're a teacher of Torah. What are you sitting here in the garden for? So, he said, there were 13 years that I never saw these gardens. Why specifically 13 years? Why specifically 13 years? I think maybe it's a bar mitzvah, that he took these kids from the moment they were born and he made the boys get ready for their bar mitzvah. And during that time, he didn't take a break. And even when I'm out here, I'm coming out to the garden thinking, what can I do to make them better students? So the idea is, I was thinking like this. He was saying that maybe some of the students need to come out on the garden to work because some of the kids are not meant for the classroom. Maybe some of them are meant for the garden. Rabbanan Maya and the rabbis who say Torah scholars, since we said the rabbis who are engaged in Torah study, what light will they get? Amravina, they're going to get the light from the verse. So above Ketseis Hashem Eshpekuro, and those who love him are like the sun goes out in strength. So a collector of charity, they're not allowed to go out and collect on their own, because people are going to suspect that maybe they're taking it. But they're allowed to go out to the gates together, and then and one will go to the gate and one will go to the shop, because then people could see them. Let's say a charity collector finds money in the marketplace. Now, typically speaking, if you find money, you could keep it. But what you name it, but the charity collector is out there collecting money, he shouldn't pick up the money and keep it and put it straight into his wallet. Oh, and also he has a little bit of a subterfuge so people don't think he's stealing. He should put it in the charity box, because when he comes home, then he can take it so people don't see and assume he's stealing. If he says to his person, you owe me 100, you owe me a certain amount of money, and he meets his friend pays him in the marketplace. So you know so he shouldn't stick it in his wallet. He should put it inside a wallet, and when he comes to his home, he should put it in the charity wallet, and when he comes to his home, he'll take it out. The charity collectors who have no poor people, they used to change their money when they would use these copper coins. Before they would go bad, they would cash them in for silver because silver wouldn't go bad. But let's say a charity collector doesn't have any poor people to switch with. He doesn't have any poor people to give out his regular money to. He shouldn't change his money with the money of the charity box, but rather should do it with others. And he shouldn't do it himself because people will suspect him. So to somebody who is giving out the food from the food pantry and there's leftover food, normally they would sell that back to people, but he shouldn't do it to himself. If there's no poor people to give it to, he shouldn't sell it to himself. He should sell it to other people. Like if there's a mashkiach, somebody who's the mashkiach of a shop, the mashkiach shouldn't be taking the food because of this reason. In Marasayan, he should say, "I want to buy it full price." Let's say you have money of charity. When you're counting up the money, you shouldn't count it two at a time, so people don't suspect him of taking two and counting only one. So therefore, they should do it only one at a time. Abai said at first, Rabbi never used to sit on the mats in the synagogue because he thought that you're not allowed to take for yourself money that was collected for the communal needs. But given the Shammah, the Tanya, once he heard that the people of the city are allowed to switch the money with Shanus L'Kol Mashir, so they're allowed to take the charity box and use it for whatever they want. Abba Yosef, then he would sit even on the mats in the synagogue. All right, we'll stop the daf here and we'll stop the recording here. If anybody has any questions, happy to address.